Take a long breath in and slowly let it go. You're safe now, wrapped in this soft moment where nothing is asked of you. Let the world dim at the edges as your eyes grow heavy. The hush of sleep begins at the edge of your breath, curling around your shoulders like a blanket warmed by memory. Imagine a quiet forest, far from roads and time, where the leaves rustle like whispered lullabies. Here, even the wind seems to slow down to listen. Let yourself sink into this silence, this stillness, where each moment stretches like golden honey, unhurried and sweet. There is nothing more to do tonight. You've come home to rest, and everything else can wait. Just feel your breath rising and falling like gentle waves against a soft shore. All is calm, all is well. Our story begins beside a narrow stream, clear and glass-like, winding through moss-covered stones, beneath the dappled canopy of ancient trees. Along its edge stands an old wooden mill, leaning ever so slightly, as if the trees themselves are holding it up with leafy arms. The mill has no name. It has simply always been there, cradled by nature, turning with the stream's steady flow. Its great wooden wheel moves slowly, round and round, creaking softly, like an old lullaby. The sound is neither loud nor sharp. It is patient, like time itself. As the water spills over mossy rocks, it finds its way to the paddles of the wheel, nudging it gently onward, forever in motion, never in haste. And above it all, the air smells of damp bark, flower dust, and sun-warmed wood. Everything about this place whispers rest, stay a while, sleep. Inside the mill, time behaves differently. It does not tick, nor chime, nor rush. It drifts. The air carries a fine misting of flour that sparkles when sunlight slips in through the rafters. It falls slowly, lazily, like the first snow of winter. Wooden beams groan softly as the stones grind grain into white powder, and the rhythm of its stone against stonies like the turning of the earth itself. Deep, grounding, eternal. A small fire crackles in a hearth, tucked in the corner, casting golden light against the old stone floor. Beside it, a worn chair rests, carved smooth by years of quiet sitting. A kettle simmers on the edge of the fire, steeping herbs that smell of lavender and peace. Here, warmth lives in the walls, and the hush of the turning wheel is the heartbeat of the house. The miller is an old man now, with soft eyes and hands powdered always with flour. He wears simple clothes, a wool cap, and boots patched many times over. He doesn't measure his life by years, but by the sound of the wheel, the feel of grain between his palms, the way morning sunlight touches the stones before noon arrives. He speaks little, but listens deeply to the water, to the forest, to the low hum of the wheel that never stops. In the village, they say, millers once knew the secrets of time, because their wheels never truly rested. The old ones believed that to live beside an endless circle, to sleep near something that never slept, was to be close to the breath of the universe. The miller doesn't argue, but sometimes, late at night, he gazes out the window at the turning wheel and smiles like a man who knows something he'll never say. On summer nights, the forest comes alive just beyond the open windows. Crickets sing in their low, steady way, and frogs offer their croaking harmony from the banks of the stream. Fireflies flicker through the trees like drifting sparks, slow and soft, never in a hurry. The miller leaves the windows open, and the night air moves through the room like a dream, brushing across the floor, the walls, the stones, and the sleeping cat curled on the hearth. Even the flames in the fireplace seem to lower their voices, burning quieter, gentler. The sound of the wheel turning in the dark, creaking and sighing, becomes a lullaby that no one remembers learning, but everyone somehow knows. It's the sound of days folding into nights, and nights melting into sleep. The mill itself has dreams, or so the villagers say. Some believe that all places which endure beyond time must carry memory, that the beams of the mill remember the hands that built them, that the stones remember every sack of grain ever poured between them, that the flour, drifting like mist, holds the breath of the past within it. It is a place where even the silence is full of the hush of 1,000 mornings, full of the warm laughter of those who once stood where you now stand, full of the wisdom that comes from never rushing, never pushing, never pulling only, turning, always turning. Like the stars outside, the stream continues on, slow and silver beneath the moonlight. It winds past the mill and into the woods beyond, where no path follows and no map leads. The water whispers to the roots of trees, to the foxes in their dens, to the owls perched silently above. It tells them that all is well, that the wheel still turns, that the miller still sleeps, that time is still turning, not like a clock, but like a circle, smooth, continuous, and kind. And the stream, like a lullaby known only to the land itself, keeps on flowing, keeps on whispering, long into the night. The mill's roof creaks softly in the breeze, not from disrepair, but like a body shifting gently in sleep. The old wooden shingles breathe with the wind, exhaling stories from generations long since past. Rain, when it falls, drums lightly on the roof, like fingertips on parchment. And the mill listens. It always listens to the weather, to the seasons, to the quiet sighs of nature all around it. And in return, it offers warmth, shelter, and the soothing hush of its endless rhythm. Even birds who nest along its eaves seem to coo more softly, as if they too are lulled by the turning wheel. It is a home, not only to the miller, but to the very silence that sleep rides in on. Sometimes, just before dawn, when night is folding itself away and the sky begins to blush pale silver, the forest leans in. The trees seem to bend slightly closer to the mill, their leaves holding still, as if listening for something sacred. The mist from the stream rises like breath from the earth, drifting low and cool across the moss. The miller stirs in his bed, not from any alarm, but from the quiet pull of the world returning to light. He stretches, moves slowly, like the wheel itself, never rushed, never stiff. His first steps are always toward the fire, where he rekindles the embers with care. Then, to the window, where he watches the wheel turn just as it did in the dark, just as it does now, greeting the morning. On his small wooden table rests a bowl of oats, a spoon carved by hand, and a pitcher of cool water drawn from the stream. Nothing elaborate, nothing wasted. The simple rhythm of his day follows the same turns as the mill. Prepare, receive, shape, rest. As the first beams of sun reach through the tall trees and slip into the mill's wide windows, they touch the floating flour in the air and make it shimmer, like a sky filled with soft stars. The light moves across old shelves lined with sacks of grain, jars of herbs, and tiny carved animals left by village children and thank. The sunlight does not hurry it, stretches gently, warming each stone, each board, as if reminding them that they, too, are part of the living world. By midday, the forest is full of quiet life. Bees hum lazily from flower to flower. Leaves shift with the breeze, rustling gently like pages turning in a book. Sometimes, the miller steps outside and sits beneath the willow tree near the stream. The willow's long branches dip low into the water, swaying in time with the wheel. He closes his eyes and listens not with his ears, but with something deeper. The bird song above, the rush of water below, the deep wooden creak of the wheel, they blend into one single breath, a breath the earth has been taking for thousands of years, and the miller, in his stillness, becomes part of it, not separate, not observer, simply another note in the music. In the quiet afternoons, when the light is golden and the breeze smells of pine and crushed leaves, the mill hums with gentle motion, a grain sack over one shoulder. The miller works slowly, with care and no urgency. He pours grain into the great stones and listens to the grinding not as noise, but as language. The flour drifts down into bins lined with soft linen, where it rests like freshly fallen snow. Every motion he makes is old, not ancient in age, but timeless in spirit. His hands, dusted white, move like a slow dance, learned by heart. There is peace in repetition, in knowing what comes next, and in doing it gently, again and again. As dusk nears, the shadows stretch long across the floor. The golden light turns copper, then amber, then fades to gray. The forest hushes in reverence, as though the very trees know that night is near and sleep must be invited, not chased. The miller lights a lantern not too bright, only enough to see by. The fire is stoked once more, and a pot of soup simmers beside it, filling the room with the aroma of thyme and warm broth. The chair, beside the hearth, waits patiently, and soon the miller sits, wrapping a shawl over his shoulders. He does not read. He does not speak. He simply watches the flames, the shadows, the floating flower that still glows in the lantern light. The world has quieted. The wheel still turns. By the time stars prick the sky and the moon rises pale above the treetops, the mill has fallen into deeper hush. Outside, the stream glimmers with moonlight, winding silently through the dark woods. The wheel turns more slowly now, not from fatigue, but from the grace of the night honoring the stillness, echoing the pace of dreams. The animals in the forest have curled into burrows and branches. The birds have gone silent. In the mill, like a great breathing beast, exhales warmth and peace into the dark. Within, the miller lies in his small bed beneath a heavy quilt. His hands rest still atop his chest. His face, lit only by moonlight through the window, is as calm as the stones below. In the wheel, his oldest companion turns on. In the deep middle of the night, when the world forgets to move quickly, the wheel continues steady and unbroken. The moonlight bathes the clearing in silver, laying quiet hands on the roof of the mill. The mossy stones, and the water that gleams like melted glass. Owls call gently in the distance, and even their voices feel softened, as though the hush of the mill has hushed them too. Inside, the embers in the hearth glow like little stars, breathing faint warmth into the darkness. The air holds the scent of wood smoke and ground grain, and the lingering echo of a day well lived. Sleep wraps itself around the mill like a quilt stitched from centuries. Even time curls up and closes its eyes here. Though the mill sleeps, it dreams and circles, round and round like the wheel. These are not sharp, vivid dreams, but slow, glowing one's dreams that drift like fog across a quiet field. The building seems to remember everything that has passed beneath its roof, each moment folded carefully into the next. The dreams are made of gentle voices, of flower-soft laughter, of the music of water against stone. The dreams smell of rain and warm bread. They feel like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder, a cradle rocking gently in rhythm with the world. And even though no one speaks them aloud, you can feel their weight in the quiet reassuring, constant, deeply kind. Come morning, the first light tiptoes over the treetops and reaches toward the mill with pale fingers. It touches the corners of windows, the tips of wildflowers along the stream, and the edge of the wooden wheel still turning with sleepy grace. The mill begins to stir once more, not with noise, but with presence. The quiet shifts, the stillness stretches. A robin sings the first note, and the breeze carries it gently across the clearing. The wheel creaks a little louder, as if clearing its throat for the day. And slowly, with practiced ease, the waking begins not just of the miller, but of the entire living hush that surrounds him. The miller opens his eyes slowly, the way one opens an old book. He blinks into the morning's softness, then sits up and listens. No alarms, no bells, only the sounds of a forest returning to life, leaves rustling, the stream giggling over its stones, the wheel saying good morning in its deep, familiar tone. He rises, stretches, and sets about the gentle rituals that shape his day. He warms the hearth, stirs a pot, waters the herbs growing on the windowsill. Every movement is a form of gratitude. Every task, however small, a gesture of welcome to the sun, to the grain, to the time that moves in slow, generous spirals around him. By the time the sun has fully risen, the mill is alive again, not loudly, but fully. Light spills in, catching the motes of flour that drift like golden dust through the beams. The wheel turns a little faster now, still unhurried, but awake. The stones resume their murmuring, grinding the day's grain with a sound like ancient breath. The miller hums, low and tuneless, a sound more felt than heard. Outside, the stream keeps talking to the roots of the trees, to the insects crossing its surface, to the stones that haven't moved in centuries. The rhythm of the place it's breathing, it's turning, it's glowing. Hush remains unchanged. It is a world outside of urgency, a circle untouched by time. Visitors come sometimes, a young girl with braids bringing her father's wheat, an old widow who still bakes by touch and scent alone. They arrive quietly, speak softly, and leave with fresh flour and cotton sacks. No one lingers too long, not out of rudeness, but reverence. The mill holds something sacred, and all who enter sense it. The children often ask why it smells so good inside, why the air feels warmer, why the stones seem to hum. The miller only smiles and shrugs, offering a wooden coin or a carved fox as a token for their wonder. He never explains. Some things don't need words to be known. Some truths live only in silence, and so the day spins forward, much like the wheel full of turns and quiet effort, gentle cycles of giving and receiving. Light moves across the floor in slow angles, tracing the passage of time not in seconds or minutes, but in shadows that stretch and bend like lazy dancers. There is no loudness here, no sudden movement. Even the grain flows like water as it's poured, and the flour falls in clouds so soft they seem to drift on dreams. The miller's hands remain steady, his breath even, his face lined with peace. He has made an entire life from the art of slowness, from the practice of presence, from the knowing that not all progress must be fast to be meaningful. By afternoon, the sun sits high above the treetops, casting dappled light across the mill's clearing. The stream gleams, weaving silver ribbons through the moss. Dragonflies skim across the water's surface, wings glittering like stained glass. Their movement is effortless, weightless like thoughts. In the hour before a nap, the wheel, always turning, sings its wooden lullaby. Around and around it goes, not for show, but because it simply must. It turns like the heart beats, like tides ebb and rise, like breath enters and leaves. A rhythm older than the calendar, older even than names. A rhythm that doesn't ask to be noticed, but simply is. Inside the mill, everything continues at that sacred pace. The grain is poured, the stones turn, the flour drifts down in silken veils. The miller wipes his hands on a linen cloth, then leans for a moment against the windowsill. He gazes out at the forest, his eyes soft and calm, like someone who sees the soul of the day. Birds flit from branch to branch. Squirrels chase one another through the high limbs. The world is alive, but not loud. Even movement here is mindful, delicate. The miller takes it all in, the way one breathes in the scent of lavender or warm bread, not with urgency, but with fullness. There's a small bench beneath a tall pine at the edge of the mill-esque garden. Some days, when the air is particularly gentle, the miller carries his soup or tea there and simply sits. He does not check the time. There are no clocks at the mill. The only time is the time of turning. The wheel knows what hour it is. The stream knows when to sing louder or lower. The light knows how to stretch across stone. And the miller, in his stillness, listens. A breeze runs its fingers through the pine's long needle. A petal drifts from a nearby wildflower. Somewhere far off, a distant crow calls once, then falls silent. The moment holds no message, only presence. When clouds roll in, soft and pale like wool, they settle low across the trees, cooling the air and quieting the birds. The mill continues just the same. Its rhythm is unaffected by weather. Rain, if it comes, slips into the stream and joins the wheel's embrace. The drops tap gently on the roof and run down the windows in slow rivers. Inside, the fire is rekindled. The chair waits beside it. The kettle begins to steam, and the miller, unhurried, returns to his place. He does not seek escape from the rain, nor complain at the gray. He welcomes it. All seasons are invited here. All moods of sky. The turning wheel does not judge the clouds. It simply moves through them. As the evening comes again, it folds the clearing in gold. Everything softens. The corners of the mill become round with light. The stream turns amber. The flower seems to glow in the air like fog touched by candlelight. The day exhales, slow and warm, and the forest exhales with it. The animals retreat. The wind calms. The shadows deepen. The miller carries in the last of the day's grain, wipes down the stones, and lowers the lamps. He speaks to no one. There's no need. The whole building speaks for him now and creaks her and turns in hush. The walls know the rituals. The air remembers every moment. And night, once again, is welcome. Long after the last light has slipped from the tree, when the moon peeks through the boughs and lays a silver path across the water, the mill quiets to a whisper. The wheel still turns, slower now, content in the lull. The fire is low but warm. The miller sleeps beneath his quilt, the same as always, hands resting, face peaceful, chest rising with each breath like the hills beyond the forest. Everything has returned to stillness. The kind of stillness that isn't empty, but full of breath, of memory, of trust. The kind of stillness that lets the body rest and the spirit roam. And as the night deepens, the mill continues to sing its one sweet song. The sound of turning, the sound of peace in the days that follow. Not much changes, and that is the comfort. The mill turns, the stream flows, and the trees listen. The seasons may shift in color and tone, but their pattern always returns. Summer deepens into golden richness. The wheat ripens in the fields, and the forest grows still in the heat of midday. Bees grow slow in their flight, heavy with nectar. Even the birds seem to pause more often on their branches, dozing in the hush. But inside the mill, the pace remains the same. Cool stone, warm fire, soft flour, a balance so gentle it becomes a cradle for every moment. It is not simply a building. It is a rhythm you can step into, a place where you do not need to be anyone but exactly who you are when you are quiet. The miller knows the signs of the season as clearly as the leaves know when to fall. He watches the color of the sky shift as the days shorten. He can tell from the scent in the air when the wheat has begun to dry in the field. He feels the chill in the stream before frost ever touches its edge, and he welcomes it all. Nothing needs resisting here. Nothing is out of place. Even the ache in his bones as autumn nears is simply another sign that time is moving gently onward. The wheel creaks a little differently in the colder air deeper, more deliberate, but it never falters. It turns just as it always has, like breath in a sleeping body. Come fall, the leaves turn to fire amber, gold rustan. The forest becomes a tapestry. The path to the mill crunches underfoot with fallen leaves, and the sky grows wider above the thinning canopy. The light sharpens into a cooler clarity, and the mill is dusted in sunbeams that slant low through the windows. The fire is lit earlier each day, and the miller wraps himself in heavier cloth. Still, his pace remains unchanged. The circle does not break. The wheel still turns. The flour still drifts. And the hush becomes even deeper. It settles into the floorboards, curls around the jars on the shelves, warms itself in the pockets of his coat. Autumn is not an ending, it is a soft, slow turning inward. With the colder winds come longer nights, and in the deepest part of evening, the mill glows like a lantern tucked in the heart of the woods. The windows fog slightly from the warmth inside. The miller's boots leave marks on the stone floor, dampened by melting frost. The cat curls closer to the hearth, and the kettle never goes cold. When it snows, when the flakes begin to fall slowly, quietly, like the flour itself, the mill does not resist. It welcomes the stillness. It does not close its doors. It simply turns, more slowly, more softly. There is no fear of silence here, no fear of being still. The silence is the story. The stillness is the song. Sometimes the village children visit after the snow has come. their cheeks pink, their boots wet, their laughter spilling into the mill like a burst of light. The miller greets them with warm mugs and tiny wooden animals carved through the quiet winter nights. They sit by the fire and listen not just to his stories, but to the mill itself, to the wheel, creaking like an old lullaby, to the stones, grinding in their sacred rhythm, to the silence between sounds, which speaks most clearly of all. And when they leave, quieter than when they came, they look back only once, before following their footprints home, already softened by the falling snow. And so winter settles in with quiet authority. The stream narrows to a ribbon, the frost patterns the windows like lace, and the wheel continues. The fire becomes the center of the room, casting dancing shadows that seem to echo the movement of dreams. The miller begins his days in the dark and ends them in candlelight, but he never complains. He smiles more often, perhaps, as if the cold makes the warmth sweeter, as if the hush of snow makes the music of the mill all the more precious. He moves a little slower, sits a little longer, but he remains part of the wheel's rhythm. He belongs to it now, as much as the stones, as much as the stream, as much as the turning itself. And just as gently as winter arrived, spring begins to breathe beneath the snow. Not suddenly, not loudly. First, in the way the icicles drip a little faster in the sun. Then, in the softest green peeking from the soil near the mill's edge. The wheel never stopped, not even in the deepest frost. It simply turned more slowly, as if in meditation. Now, with the thaw, the stream gathers strength again. The water brightens in tone, its song higher, more curious. The forest begins to wake with tiny sounds buds popping open, roots shifting beneath thawed ground, birds testing their songs, one note at a time. The mill listens, the stones listen, and the miller, wrapped in his shawl beside the window, closes his eyes and smiles. He does not need to move quickly. He simply notices, and the noticing is enough. In spring, the light returns like an old friend, first cautious, then bold. It fills the mill's windows with golden warmth and touches every shelf, every crevice, as if remembering the way. The flower catches it in floating particles, glowing like 1,000 tiny suns. The air smells of damp bark, early blossoms, and yeast rising slowly in a bowl. The miller plants herbs in small clay pots, lined along the ledge. His hands are older now, but they move with the grace of long practice. He does not rush. He never has. Time still turns in circles, not straight lines. The wheel reminds him of this, around and around, with no beginning, no end, only presence, only turning. The children come more often in spring. Their coats are lighter now, their voices brighter. They bring wildflowers in bunches, tucked into pockets, pressed into the miller's hands with shy grins. He tucks them into jars, lets their colors fill the room. They ask questions. In soft voice, so why does the wheel turn? Does it dream? Will it ever stop? The miller never answers directly. He might say, it turns because the stream does, or wheels have secrets they never speak. But mostly, he invites them to sit quietly and listen, to close their eyes and feel the rhythm. And sometimes, in those long silences, the children seem to understand in a way words could never reach. The days stretch longer now, like cats. In a patch of sunlight, the mill opens its arms wider to the warmth, and even the beams seem to breathe more deeply. The stream, once frozen, now runs clear and fast. It splashes like laughter over the stones. But the wheel still turns, with slow, deliberate grace. It will not be hurried, and that's the magic. Everything else, rushes clouds chase across the sky. The wind rises and falls. The world outside the forest moves, in jolts and beeps and bells. But the wheel just turns. Always the same. And the miller, whether planting, baking, sweeping, or resting, moves to its rhythm. A rhythm that cradles him as surely as the quilt on his bed or the chair by the hearth. On some late spring evenings, when the light stretches all the way to the tops of the trees, The miller sits beneath the willow again. The air is warm and thick with the scent of soil and sap and distant flowers. Fireflies have returned, blinking softly in the underbrush, flickering like thoughts you almost remember from a dream. The miller leans back, breathes in deep, and listens to the wheel turning behind him. Always there, always steady. It has turned through storms and seasons, through laughter and silence, through years he has long since stopped counting. And in that turning, he feels not older but held. Like time itself is a friend who never leaves. Sometimes, in those long, golden twilights, he thinks of people who once stood where he stands now. Millers before him? Maybe children long grown, travelers who stopped for warmth and bread. He doesn't remember all their names, but the mill does. The walls remember. The stones hold the echo of each footstep, each voice, each breath. The wheel turns through it all, gentle and strong. And when he closes his eyes, the miller hears it not just in his ears, but in his bones, a lullaby of turning, a song of slow time. And in that song, he finds peace that asks nothing but stillness in return. As summer returns once more, the mill blooms quietly with the forest around it. Vines creep higher along the stones, weaving green lace against the weathered wood. Bees hum deeper, now, their music thicker in the warm, golden air. The stream sings its song with playful clarity, and the mill's wheel dips steadily into its current, turning not faster, but smoother. It knows this season well. The wheel has known many summers filled with ripe grain, with sweet herbs drying in bunches above the hearth, with sunlight pouring through the high windows until it puddles like melted butter on the stone floor. And the miller, older now, with lines deeper around his eyes, meets each day with a gaze that lingers. He no longer moves with the strength of youth, but with the grace of one who has made peace with every pace. This summer feels quieter than most. Not empty, never empty, but deeply still, as if even the birds have decided to sing more softly. The wheel creaks in a low, thoughtful tone, and the stream glimmers beneath leaves that barely stir. The air is thick with time, not the ticking kind, but the kind that gathers gently, like dust in corners, or the scent of something baking. The miller spends more time in his chair these days. He watches the light move across the ceiling beams, watches flowers sift through his fingers, watches the fire burn low and steady. He listens to the hush of the wheel, to the wind pressing its warm hand against the window, to the distant hum of bees and bells from the village. And in that quiet, he feels held. Sometimes, memories come to him not as sharp pictures, but as feelings. Hello. Remember the way his mother's voice echoed when she called him in for bread, or the smell of the river the day he first saw the mill. Younger, curious, full of wonder, he'll remember handsome, strong, some soft offering help, offering company, offering nothing but presence. These memories don't pull him back. They settle around him, like warm stones gathered around a fire. They are not stories he tells out loud. They are truths he carries gently, like flour in his palm's light, but essential. One morning, a deer appears in the clearing, not afraid, just there. Its legs are slender and still, its eyes wide and watchful. The miller sees it from his window and does not move. He simply breathes. The deer stays for a long time, as if listening to the wheel, as if drawn by its sound. And when it leaves, its movement is so soft that even the leaves seem reluctant to rustle. The miller watches it vanish into the trees and feels no need to speak of it. The moment was not for memory. It was for the now, for the breath he took, for the way the light moved just then across the floor, for the sound of the wheel turning once and again. One evening, just before the sun falls behind the hills, the miller takes a walk to the edge of the forest. The trees rise tall and patient, their branches cradling the sky. The light slants gold and amber through the trunks, and the path beneath his feet is soft with moss. He walks slowly, not to get somewhere, just to be among the trees, to feel the hush between their roots. The wheel still turns behind him. He can hear it, even here, faint but steady. And that sound, more than the wind or the birds, tells him he is never alone. It reminds him that everything is still moving, just as it should, that the earth still breathes beneath his feet, and the mill still listens. When he returns, the sky is a deep blue velvet, the stars like flowers scattered across it. The fire in the hearth flickers low. The cat is curled in its usual place, and the wheel turns, still, always. The miller removes his shoes, sets his hands on the wooden frame of the door, and breathes in deeply. The air smells like home, like old wood, warm stone, and 1,000 quiet mornings. He steps inside, closes the door behind him, and lets the silence greet him like an old friend. In that silence is every season, every step, every sound the mill has ever made. And as the wheel turns into the night, the miller settles once more into the rhythm of sleep. The days grow shorter as summer begins to bow gently to autumn's approach. The air cools, carrying the scent of earth and wood smoke, like a whispered promise that change is near. The forest shifts colors, slowly greens, melting into golds and reds that blaze softly in the fading sunlight. The miller senses the turning, not just outside, but deep within himself. He moves with the steady grace of the wheel patient, unhurried, accepting the quiet changes. Each day's work remains the same, yet it feels new, like a story told again with different light, different breath. The flower drifts softly in the shafts of sun, falling like a gentle snow, and the wheel keeps turning, steady and sure. Morning light filters through the tall windows, warming the wooden beams and the stone floor, illuminating the fine dust that floats like tiny stars in the air. The miller tends to his herbs, brushing the leaves gently, speaking softly to the green life that grows under his care. The quiet beauty of the moment wraps around him, a soft shawl woven from time and peace. Outside, the stream murmurs in gentle harmony with the turning wheel, the two singing a song as old as the earth itself. The miller breathes in the scents, the damp moss, the crisp morning air, the faint sweetness of ripening grain, and exhales slowly, letting the calm deepen. As afternoon stretches on, the forest hums with subtle life. Leaves rustle faintly, stirred by a breeze that seems to carry secrets from far away. The miller watches from his window, seeing a squirrel dart along a branch, its tail flicking in quick bursts of motion. Farther off, a hawk circles silently, high above the trees, its wings steady and sure. The world is full of movement, but the miller's world is full of stillness. His hands move with practiced ease, turning grain to flour, tending fires that burn low and warm, folding his days into quiet ritual. The wheel turns steadily, its creak a lullaby for the heart. When evening comes, the light softens and deepens, painting the mill in shades of amber and rose. The air cools, wrapping the clearing in a gentle hush. The miller lights the lanterns, their flames flickering like tiny stars against the growing dark. The cat curls up beside the hearth, purring softly, a comforting rhythm that blends with the fire's crackle and the wheel's steady song. The miller sits quietly, savoring the peace that comes with the close of day. He does not rush toward sleep, but lets it find him, like a gentle tide pulling him toward rest. Outside, the night deepens and the stars unfold, countless points of light scattered across the velvet sky. The wheel turns quietly in the moonlight, its rhythm slow and steady, a steady heartbeat beneath the stillness. The forest breathes softly, the trees standing sentinel in the cool air. Somewhere, a night bird calls a single, haunting note that echoes through the dark. The miller listens, feeling the pulse of the night, the steady turning of the wheel, and the deep, slow breath of the earth. Wrapped in warmth and quiet, he lets sleep come gently, carrying him into dreams as soft and steady as the mill song. The cool breath of autumn deepens, wrapping the forest and mill in its quiet embrace. Leaves swirl softly in lazy spirals, falling like whispered secrets onto the forest floor. The air tastes of wood smoke and damp earth, grounding and still. The miller moves among his tasks with care, hands steady as the turning wheel outside. He does not hurry. He moves as one moves through a dream, deliberate, slow, and calm. The world narrows to the sound of grain falling, the creak of timber, and the gentle whisper of water flowing beneath the wheel's steady turn. All else fades away. There is only the now. The mill's windows catch the afternoon light, which pools across the stone floor like warm honey. The flour dust sparkles faintly in the beams, catching the golden glow like stardust. The miller pauses for a moment, letting the light wash over him, warming his skin and soul. Outside, the forest hums in muted tones, the trees leaning closer as if to listen. The wheel turns unceasingly, a silent guardian of time's steady flow. It has seen seasons come and go, witnessed countless sunrises and sunsets, and yet it remains patient and sure. It does not rush. It simply turns. Evening brings with it a softer light, one that slips in like a secret. The fire crackles low, sending flickering shadows that dance on the walls like memories. The cat purrs, a gentle rumble that blends perfectly with the soothing creak of the wheel. The miller wraps himself in a thick shawl, settling into his chair by the hearth. He closes his eyes, letting the sounds of the mill and forest wash over him like a gentle tide. Each breath deepens his calm, each heartbeat sensing with the steady rhythm of the wheels turning. Sleep is near and soft, inviting, and kind. Outside, the stars twinkle faintly through the swaying branches. The moon casts a pale glow, illuminating the mist that rises from the stream like a delicate veil. The wheel turns quietly in the cool night air, its song a lullaby older than time itself. Somewhere in the distance, a lone owl hoots softly, its voice a gentle echo through the stillness. The miller breathes deeply, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath him. The endless turning of the wheel and the peaceful embrace of night. Wrapped in warmth and quiet, he lets his eyes close fully, drifting gently into dreams as steady and soft as the mill's eternal song. By morning, a soft fog drapes the forest, wrapping each tree and stone in a silvery hush. The stream runs quiet beneath its veil, and even the birds delay their songs. The wheel turns through the mist, its creak softened further by the damp air, like an old lullaby muffled by blankets. Inside the mill, the fire is already lit, its warmth spreading slowly, patiently, from hearth to ceiling beam. The miller moves through the familiar hush, lighting lanterns, checking the grindstone, smoothing the linen bins where flour will gather again. His every motion is slow, circular, meditative. Nothing here demands rush. Nothing here calls for anything but presence. He steps outside briefly, into the gentle chill, his shawl drawn tight across his shoulders. The damp earth smells of pine and stone, and the deep quiet that only lives in early morning fog. He stands beneath the overhang, watching the wheel, letting its rhythm anchor his thoughts. The water slipping through the paddles makes no splash, just a soft hush-hush, like breath passing between parted lips. Somewhere beyond the fog, a bird begins to sing. One clear, simple note, and then silence again. It is enough. It is always enough. Back inside, he prepares the morning's grain, each scoop a small act of reverence. The grindstones hum low and sure. The flour descends in a slow, soft stream. His hands move gently, emotions unchanged by age, because they have always known this rhythm. Time does not chase him here. He lives within it, like a fish in a slow river. Around and around the wheel turns, as it always has. And within that turning, his day unfolds not as a schedule, but as a song, one breath at a time. Later, he sits beside the fire with a cup of warm tea, his fingers curled around the clay. The steam rises slowly, twining with the faint flour, drifting in the golden shafts of light. The silence isn't empty. It's filled with the memory of stories, the echo of footsteps past, the kind hush that welcomes everything and asks for nothing. The cat climbs into his lap and purrs softly, its rhythm syncing with the turning of the wheel outside. The miller closes his eyes and lets the warmth seep into him, into his hands, his chest, his very breath. Everything here turns inward, soft, whole. By afternoon, The fog lifts, and sunlight dapples the forest floor. Leaves shimmer with dew, and the stream glows like poured silver. The wheel turns stronger now, its rhythm brightening with the returning light. The forest stirs again, birds call, twigs snap beneath light paws, and bees resume their drifting dance from flower to flower. But the mill stays steady, unchanged. It is the heart of the hush, the center of stillness, and the miller, whether sitting, working, or watching, remains tethered to that quiet pulse. It does not matter what the world beyond is doing. The turning wheel is enough. The days begin to shorten again, not sharply, but subtly, like a candle burning just a little lower each night. The shadows stretch farther across the mill floor, and the light that spills through the windows turns softer, more golden, as if it too is learning to whisper. The miller notices, not with concern, but with a quiet nod. The wheel, unchanged, continues its turn. The stream has narrowed, not from drought, but from the rhythm of the year. Even water must rest sometimes. The turning slows just slightly, a deeper creak in the timbers, a longer pause between each splash. The hush grows fuller, thicker, like a blanket being drawn gently over the forest. In the quiet of a late afternoon, the miller takes a seat by the door and opens it wide. The air that comes in smells of drying leaves and old wood. He doesn't look at anything in particular. His eyes trace the movement of light, the drift of a single leaf as it twirls down from the canopy. Everything is moving, but nothing is rushing. Even time here seems to tiptoe. The wheel continues behind him. That same comforting rhythm, the sound of something that was never meant to stop. It is steady in the bones, like a rocking boat on a gentle tide. A rhythm the heart begins to echo, unconsciously, gratefully. He thinks of how long the mill has stood, not in years, but in turnings. Countless cycles, countless seasons, the wood shaped by wind and hand, the stones smoothed by water and time, the air rich with the flower of generations. Every moment here is layered today, resting on yesterday, folded into the one before that, and all of it carried forward on the wheel's turning. The miller has stopped counting how many autumns he has watched from this doorway. There is no need to count what you trust will come again. Evenings grow cooler, and the fire becomes a faithful companion. Its crackle fills the space with comfort, its warmth settling into corners where the sunlight can no longer reach. The miller drinks more tea now. With a drop of honey stirred slowly in, he wraps his shawl tighter. Though he never minds the cold, the stones keep their heat long after the fire dims. And the wheel, even in the stillest hours of night, still turns. Sometimes he wakes to its song, softer than breath, reminding him that he's not alone. That sleep is not a stillness, but a deeper kind of turning. The animals sense the coming season too. The squirrels gather more often now, darting along the roof beams with cheeks full of acorns. A small family of deer pass through the clearing at dawn, pausing only for a heartbeat before vanishing into the mist. Even a cat sleeps longer, curling into tighter spirals, her ears twitching only slightly. As the miller moves through the morning light, the rhythm holds, not by force, but by kindness. The wheel never demands. It only continues, gentle, welcoming, eternal, and all who live near it begin to follow its lead. As the last leaves begin to fall, the mill quiets even further. The world beyond becomes muted, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Mornings arrive slowly now, with a heavy hush that settles on everything: the roof, the stones, the surface of the stream. Frost traces delicate lace across the windows, patterns to find for memory, too soft for words. The miller wakes to this stillness and smiles. He knows it well. It is the silence before the snow, the breath before the hush becomes complete, and even before it falls, the wheel continues undeterred. It speaks not in resistance, but in surrender. A surrender to the moment, to the rhythm, to the now. He lights the fire before the sun rises, its glow casting amber warmth into the quiet. His hands, though slower now, still know every motion: where to reach, how to stir, when to pause. The kettle hums softly on the iron hook, and the scent of cedar kindling drifts up with the smoke. The miller does not speak. There is no need. His quiet is not emptiness, it is communion with the fire, the stones, the wheel. He sips slowly, wrapped in wool and time, as the dawn slowly paints the edges of the sky in pale blue and soft rose. When snow finally comes, it arrives like a sigh. Gentle, slow, steady. It covers the forest in a hush so complete that even the birds seem to perch in awe. The stream beneath the wheel narrows further, its song now muffled beneath ice. But the wheel still turns just enough. It doesn't resist the slowing. It welcomes it, moving in a whisper, each creak softer than the last. The flour that falls inside the mill seems to move in rhythm with the snow, outside light, swirling, settling. The world is wrapped in white, and within the mill, warmth holds strong. A candle glows. A page turns. The cat purrs in sleep. Visitors are rare in the deepest winter. But the miller does not feel alone. The mill is alive, and its song is enough company. He speaks aloud only sometimes soft words to the fire, to the cat, to the wheel. He hums under his breath, a low, tuneless melody that wraps itself around the turning like ivy. His life, once filled with motion, has become a long, deep breath, one that stretches out slowly through the days and nights, one that mirrors the endless looping of the mill itself, around and around, without hurry, without end. And in this quiet rhythm, he finds peace, not the loud joy of youth, but the contentment that arrives only when you've listened long enough to understand the song of time. His hands are slower now, his steps more careful, but his spirit is as steady as the wheel. He doesn't look ahead or behind. He simply lives within the circle, where every moment belongs, and nothing needs to be grasped too tightly, where the past rests gently behind him, and the future need not be reached for. Only the present matters, only the turning, only the hush. The snow deepens, layering the forest in soft silence. Days pass in tones of pearl and blue, skies heavy with clouds that do not threaten, only drift. Each branch wears a crown of white, and the path to the mill is barely a path anymore, just a soft trail where boots have walked, then vanished beneath fresh snow. But still, the mill stands warm, and the wheel turns, slower now, but sure, always sure. It knows no urgency, no need to race against time. Time, here, is a friend, not a ruler, and the miller has become much the same. Each morning is quiet, each task done slowly, gently, a candle lit, the fire stirred, a hand resting against the windowpane, feeling the chill behind the glass, watching the faintest glimmer of movement in the white world beyond. Sometimes the miller does not speak for hours. His thoughts move like the stream beneath the ice, steady, unseen, deep. There is nothing he must become, nothing he must solve, only the rhythm of the wheel, the warmth of the hearth, the fall of snow, and the hush of a day without demand. When he does speak, it is to the mill itself. A word here, a hum there, sometimes only a breath, and the mill seems to understand. After so many years, so many turnings, they have become one. The miller and the wheel, the stones and the hands that guide them. Even the silence between their motions is part of the story. And that story does not shout. It whispers. It breathes. It rests. One night, during a soft snowfall, the miller steps outside without his coat, not far, just to the doorway. The snow kisses his face. The cold presses gently against his skin. The wheel turns behind him, slow as a lullaby, and the forest breathes. He closes his eyes and listens. The stream, beneath its frozen shell, still moves. The wind carries no urgency. It brushes the trees like fingers against harp strings. The stars blink behind passing clouds, and in all of it, he feels not small but safe, held, carried by something much older and kinder than time. He does not stay out long, just long enough to feel part of it, part of the hush, part of the breath. He returns inside, sets another log on the fire, and sinks into his old chair. The cat joins him, purring into the folds of his blanket. He does not reach for a book. He does not need music or words. The mill is singing. The wheel is turning. The fire is humming. And his heart, slow and steady, follows their lead. The days grow stiller now. Even the snow has stopped falling, as if the sky has grown too quiet to stir. The mill sits in its blanket of white, untouched, unmoved except for the wheel, which turns on, slower than ever. A whisper of emotion, a sigh drawn out across the spine of the stream. Yet still it moves, and still it sings, the same lullaby it has always known, the same breath that's carried through every season, through every silence. Inside, the fire has burned low, only glowing coals, now flickering soft red and orange, casting faint shadows that barely reach the stone walls. The cat sleeps curled by the hearth, unmoving except for the rise and fall of breath. The miller sits quietly, shawl wrapped around his shoulders, eyes gently closed. He does not sleep yet. He listens. He listens to the creak of the wheel, to the hush of winter pressing against the windows, to the memory of summer drifting in the beams overhead. He listens to the heartbeat of the mill, and he smiles. He does not think of endings, only turning. He does not wonder what comes next, only what is now. And what is now is peace. A peace deep enough to hold the world, a peace soft enough to carry every name ever spoken here, every hand that turned grain to flour, every story whispered beside the hearth. This is not a final chapter. It is a return, a circle complete, a breath exhaled. Outside, the wheel turns once more, just once, just enough. The stream beneath it is nearly still, but not frozen, not entirely. Like the breath of someone dreaming, and in the soft dark of early night, as stars bloom behind the trees, and frost glistens like sugar on the eaves, the mill settles, not with sorrow, not with silence, but with rest. The miller leans back. His hands are folded in his lap. His eyes remain closed, the corners curved in the memory of a smile. Around him, everything breathes slow. Everything whispers. Everything waits. Not for change, not for noise, but for stillness. The kind of stillness that holds and heals and lasts. And somewhere in that deep, endless hush, the wheel turns again.